The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the small Earth ship as it approached the glittering spires of the Galactic Council's headquarters. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm, her face a mask of determination. It had been only 5 years since humanity had made first contact, and already they were walking a tightrope in galactic politics. As the ship docked, Sarah straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. This meeting could change everything for Earth. The doors hissed open, revealing a corridor lined with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some looked almost human, while others defied description. Sarah forced herself not to stare as she made her way to the Grand Council chamber. The room was a massive amphitheater, with delegates from 1,000 worlds seated in concentric circles. At the center stood a dais where the most powerful beings in the galaxy made decisions that affected trillions. Sarah took her seat, acutely aware of the whispers and sidelong glances from the alien representatives. High Counselor Zaxthor, a towering insectoid creature, called the meeting to order. His multifaceted eyes swept the room as he spoke in the common galactic tongue. We are here to discuss the rapid expansion of human colonies in the Orion Arm. Many of our members have expressed concerns. Sarah felt a knot form in her stomach. She had expected this, but it didn't make it any easier. As Zaxthor droned on about resource allocation and territorial disputes, Sarah's mind wandered to the colonies in question. New Eden was the largest, a lush garden world where nearly 1 million humans now call home. Then there was Prometheus, a harsh mining colony that was already producing rare minerals that had caught the attention of several alien megacorporations. The latest was Horizon, a research outpost on the edge of known space. Each colony represented humanity's drive to explore, to push boundaries. But to the Galactic Council, they were an irritation at best, a threat at worst. And so we must consider placing limits on further human expansion. Zaxthor concluded, snapping Sarah back to attention. She stood, her voice steady as she addressed the council. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, I understand your concerns, but I must remind you that humanity has adhered to all treaties and regulations since joining this esteemed body. Our colonies pose no threat to established territories. A reptilian delegate hissed in disagreement. Your kind breed like vermin and consume resources at an alarming rate. If left unchecked, you will overrun us all. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Sarah felt her cheeks burn, but she kept her composure. We have shown time and again that we are willing to cooperate and share our innovations. The medical breakthroughs from Horizon alone have benefited dozens of species. The debate raged on for hours. Sarah fought tooth and nail for every concession, every agreement. By the time the session ended, she was exhausted but satisfied. They had managed to avoid any major restrictions for now. As she made her way back to her ship, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The uneasy peace between humanity and the galactic community was growing more strained by the day. Back on Earth, news of the council meeting spread quickly. In the halls of power, leaders debated their next moves. Some urged caution, while others pushed for even more aggressive expansion. In a secret facility deep beneath the Martian surface, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly on projects that would give humanity an edge. They knew that in this vast, often hostile universe, Earth needed every advantage it could get. As Sarah's ship broke orbit and set course for home, she gazed out at the star-filled sky. Somewhere out there, human colonies continued to grow, pushing ever outward. And somewhere out there, alien races watched with growing unease. The peace, such as it was, would not last forever. Sarah only hoped that when the storm finally broke, humanity would be ready to weather it. The grand halls of the Galactic Council's secret meeting chamber echoed with hushed voices. Shadows danced on the walls as the most powerful beings in the universe gathered. This was not a regular session. No humans were present. High Counselor Zaxthor's chitinous form loomed over the assembly. His compound eyes reflected the dim light as he spoke. We are here to address the human problem once and for all. A holographic display flickered to life in the center of the room. It showed the rapid spread of human colonies across the galaxy. Red dots multiplied like a virus, each one representing a world touched by humanity. In just 5 years, they have expanded faster than any species in galactic history, a blue-skinned delegate said, her voice filled with worry. Their technology advances at an alarming rate, another added. Soon, they may surpass even the oldest among us. The room buzzed with nervous energy. Fear and anger mixed in equal measure. Zaxthor raised a clawed appendage for silence. We have tried diplomacy. We have tried restrictions. Nothing has slowed their progress. The time has come for more. Decisive action. A gasp rippled through the assembly. Everyone knew what those words meant. Surely there must be another way. A small furry creature squeaked from the back. There is not, Zaxthor said firmly. We have run the simulations. In every scenario where humans are left unchecked, they become the dominant force in the galaxy within a century. Our way of life, our very existence, is threatened. A hologram change, showing detailed plans of human colonies, defense systems, population centers, and key infrastructure were highlighted. We have operatives in place on every major human world, a shadowy figure said from a dark corner. We can strike them all simultaneously. They will have no time to react. The room fell silent as the weight of the decision pressed down on them. This was not just an act of war, it was genocide. And what of Earth? Someone asked. Earth will be dealt with in time, Zaxthor answered. But first, we must cut off their expansion. The colonies must fall. One by one, the council members nodded their agreement. Some did so eagerly, others with clear reluctance. But in the end, the decision was unanimous. Then it is decided, Zaxthor declared. In 3 solar cycles, we will launch our attack. May the universe forgive us for what we must do. As the council members filed out, none of them noticed the small maintenance droid in the corner. Its sensors had recorded everything. Millions of light years away, on a small human colony called New Hope, a young girl named Lily looked up at the stars. She dreamed of exploring the galaxy, of meeting new alien friends. She had no idea that in 3 days, her world would burn. In orbit around New Hope, Captain Jake Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force ran a routine patrol. His ship's sensors were quiet. There was no sign of the fleet gathering just beyond the system's edge. Back on Earth, in the bustling headquarters of the United Earth government, politicians argued about trade deals and colonial charters. They were blind to the betrayal unfolding in the depths of space. Only one person sensed the coming storm. Dr. Emma Latimer, head of Earth's Xenobiology department, stared at her computer screen in horror. The message from her secret source in the Galactic Council was clear. Atasiki imminent. Colonized targeted. Millions will die. Her hands shook as she reached for the emergency comlink. But would anyone believe her? And even if they did, was there enough time to stop what was coming? As the galaxy slept, the countdown to massacre ticked on. 3 days until the betrayal. 3 days until the stars would echo with the screams of millions. 3 days until humanity's wrath would be ignited. And in the vast, uncaring void of space, the Galactic Council's fleets began to move. The sky over New Hope Colony turned red as the first wave of Galactic Council ships entered the atmosphere. Sirens wailed, cutting through the early morning calm. Panic spread like wildfire. Lily, the young girl who had dreamed of the stars, was jolted awake by her mother's screams. "Get to the shelter," her mother yelled, dragging her out of bed. Through the window, Lily saw strange ships raining fire on the city. In orbit, Captain Jake Rodriguez's patrol ship was overwhelmed in seconds. His last transmission to Earth was cut short by a devastating blast. The colony's meager defenses crumbled under the assault. On Earth, Dr. Emma Latimer's warning had finally reached the right ears, but it was too late. The United Earth government watched in horror as communication with one colony after another went dark. New Eden, humanity's proudest achievement, was reduced to ash in minutes. Prometheus, the mining powerhouse, collapsed as alien weapons ignited its volatile atmosphere. Horizon, the frontier of human research, fell silent as its inhabitants were vaporized. Back on New Hope, Lily and her family huddled in an underground shelter with hundreds of others. The ground shook with each impact. Dust rained from the ceiling. Children cried. Adults prayed. Why are they doing this? Someone sobbed. No one had an answer. Hours passed. The attacks didn't stop. The shelter's walls began to crack. Fear turned to desperation. In a secret bunker on Mars, Earth's military leaders scrambled to mount a defense. But their fleets were scattered, unprepared for an attack of this scale. General Sarah Chen, now the highest-ranking survivor of Earth's space forces, slammed her fist on the table. "We need to evacuate who we can," she growled. "And then we need to hit back. Hard." As the massacre continued, stories of heroism emerged from the chaos. On Titan Colony, a group of engineers sacrificed themselves to overload the moon's core, taking out a large portion of the attacking fleet. On Proxima Centauri B, a lone pilot in an experimental fighter managed to destroy 3 enemy capital ships before being shot down. His last words, broadcast across all frequencies, became a rallying cry: "Remember humanity." But for every act of defiance, thousands more died. Cities burned. Forests were leveled. Oceans boiled. The Galactic Council's attack was thorough and merciless. In the Galactic Council's command ship, High Counselor Zax Thor watched the destruction with cold detachment. "It is necessary," he chittered to his subordinates, "for the greater good of the galaxy." As the first day of the attack neared its end, the true scale of the massacre became clear. Billions dead, dozens of worlds in ruins. Humanity's grand expansion into the stars had been all but erased. Yet, in the darkness, hope survived. On New Hope, Lily and a handful of others emerged from their crumbling shelter to find their world forever changed. The colony was in ruins, but they were alive. In hidden bases across the solar system, the remnants of Earth's military regrouped. Fury replaced shock. Plans for vengeance were already being drawn. And on distant planets, in remote outposts too small to be targeted, human survivors received the terrible news. Their shock turned to rage, their grief to a burning desire for revenge. As the Galactic Council's fleets began to withdraw, satisfied with their work, they failed to notice the seeds of their own destruction they had sown. They had sought to exterminate humanity. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. In the smoking ruins of New Hope, Lily looked up at the stars once more. Her innocence was gone, replaced by a steely determination. "We'll make them pay," she whispered. "We'll make them all pay." The massacre was over. The war was about to begin. The streets of every major city on Earth were filled with people. Some wept, others shouted in anger. The news of the massacre had reached home, and the planet was in turmoil. In New York, a sea of candles flickered in Central Park as millions gathered to mourn. In Beijing, crowds chanted for revenge. In Lagos, people lined up to join the military, their faces grim with determination. Inside the United Earth government's emergency bunker, world leaders argued fiercely. The room was thick with tension and the smell of stale coffee. "We must sue for peace," shouted the representative from India. "We cannot hope to fight the entire Galactic Council." "Peace," spat the Australian Prime Minister. "After what they've done, we'll fight until the last human breathes." President Maria Alvarez of the North American Union slammed her hand on the table, silencing the room. "We will do both," she said, her voice steady. "We will extend one hand in peace and arm the other for war." As the debate raged on, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly in secret labs across the globe. Dr. Emma Latimer, the xenobiologist who had tried to warn them, now led a team developing biological weapons tailored to various alien physiologies. In orbital shipyards, construction of new warships accelerated. General Sarah Chen oversaw the integration of salvaged alien technology into Earth's defenses. We'll use their own weapons against them, she told her staff, her eyes burning with cold fury. Meanwhile, on the Mars colony, a breakthrough was made. Dr. Yuki Tanaka burst into the command center, waving a datapad. "We've cracked it," she exclaimed. "We can reverse engineer their faster-than-light drives." The news spread like wildfire. Humanity would no longer be confined to their solar system. They could take the fight to the enemy. Back on Earth, in a hidden facility deep beneath the Sahara, the first prototype of a new weapon was unveiled. The quantum destabilizer could theoretically tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. Its creator, Dr. Hassan Malik, looked at it with a mix of pride and horror. "May God forgive us for what we must do," he whispered. As Earth prepared for war, survivors from the attacked colonies began to arrive. Their stories of horror and heroism galvanized the population. Among them was Lily, the girl from New Hope, now an orphan filled with a thirst for vengeance. In a bold move, President Alvarez addressed the Galactic Council directly. Her holographic image stood tall in their chamber, unflinching under their alien gazes. "You have committed an act of genocide against us," she said, her voice echoing through the hall. "You sought to exterminate us, but you have only awakened us. We extend our hand one last time in peace. Withdraw your forces, make reparations, and we can avoid further bloodshed." The council chamber erupted in jeers and threats. High Counselor Zax Thor stepped forward, his mandibles clicking in what passed for a sneer. "You are in no position to make demands, human. Accept your extinction with dignity." Alvarez's hologram smiled coldly. "Then remember this moment, Counselor. Remember that we offered peace. What comes next is on your heads." Her image flickered out. As news of the Council's response spread, the last voices of peace on Earth fell silent. Factories retooled for war production. Schools became training grounds. Every resource, every mind, every hand was turned toward one goal: survival. In orbit, the first ships of Earth's new fleet assembled. General Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship, named Humanity's Vengeance. She looked at the faces of her crew, saw the determination there, and nodded. "Send the message to all ships," she ordered. "Operation Retribution begins now." As the fleet prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Chen thought of all those lost in the massacre. "We remember," she whispered, "and we will have justice." The stars blurred, and humanity launched itself into a war that would reshape the galaxy forever. The darkness of space lit up as Earth's fleet exited faster-than-light travel. Before them lay Zeta 9, a key Galactic Council world. General Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the comms. "Remember New Hope. Remember Eden. Today, we strike back." On the bridge of Humanity's Vengeance, Chen watched as her fleet moved into attack formation. The element of surprise was on their side. The aliens had never expected humans to reach their core world so quickly. The first volley of quantum torpedoes streaked across space, their energy signatures masked by Dr. Tanaka's latest invention. They struck Zeta 9's orbital defenses before the aliens could even raise shields. As chaos erupted on the planet below, Chen turned to her tactical officer. "Launch the Trojan Horse," she ordered. A seemingly disabled human ship drifted towards the main spaceport. Inside, a team of elite soldiers led by Captain Miguel Ortiz waited silently. Among them was Lily, the survivor from New Hope, now a hardened warrior at just 18. The ship was captured by a tractor beam, just as planned. As soon as they were inside, Ortiz gave the signal. "Go, go, go." The team burst out, their new phase-shift armor allowing them to pass through walls. Lily's eyes burned with determination as she gunned down alien security forces. "This is for my parents," she whispered. Meanwhile, in orbit, the space battle raged. Earth ships, though outnumbered, fought with a ferocity that shocked the Council forces. New technologies born from human ingenuity and reverse-engineered alien tech gave them an edge. On Earth, Dr. Emma Latimer watched the battle unfold through real-time data streams. Her bioweapons were being deployed for the first time. She felt a mix of pride and horror as reports came in of entire alien crews succumbing to tailored viruses. Back on Zeta 9, Ortiz's team fought their way to the central command center. Lily planted the quantum destabilizer, her hand steady despite the chaos around her. "Payback time," she growled, activating the device. As they retreated to their ship, the ground began to shake. The quantum destabilizer worked better than anyone had imagined. It didn't just destroy the command center. It began to tear apart the fabric of reality itself. "All forces, withdraw immediately." Chen's voice boomed across all channels. The human fleet began to pull back, their mission accomplished. From the safety of space, they watched as a section of Zeta 9 simply ceased to exist, sucked into a localized black hole. The devastation was beyond anything they had planned. In the Galactic Council chambers, panic reigned. High Counselor Zaxthor's mandibles clacked nervously as reports flooded in. "Impossible," he chittered. "How could they have advanced so quickly?" News of the attack spread rapidly across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, enslaved human populations looked up with new hope. On 1,000 more, alien races who had stood by during the massacre now trembled in fear. As the fleet returned to Earth, they were met with cheers and celebrations. But for those who had been on the front lines, the victory felt hollow. They had become what they had hated. In her quarters, Lily stared at her reflection, barely recognizing the hardened soldier looking back at her. "What have we become?" she whispered. General Chen, in her post-mission briefing, addressed this unease directly. "We did what we had to do," she said firmly. "But we must not lose our humanity in this war. We fight not just for vengeance, but for the right to exist." President Alvarez, in a worldwide broadcast, echoed these sentiments. "Today we have shown the galaxy that humanity will not go quietly into the night. But our goal remains peace, a peace where all species can coexist without fear." As the dust settled on their first major victory, humanity faced a new question. How far were they willing to go to win this war? And what would be left of them when it was over? In the depths of space, on hidden outposts and secret bases, humans and sympathetic aliens began to work together. A resistance was forming. The galaxy was changing. And in the shadows, ancient races long thought extinct stirred, awakened by the conflict. The war was far from over. It had only just begun. The galaxy burned. 5 years had passed since humanity's strike on Zeta 9, and the conflict had escalated beyond anyone's wildest nightmares. Entire solar systems had become battlegrounds, stars themselves weaponized in the desperate struggle for survival. On the bridge of the Nova Dawn, Earth's most advanced warship, Admiral Lily watched the holographic display of yet another battle unfolding. She was no longer the scared girl from New Hope, but a hardened military leader. "Launch the solar flare missiles," she commanded, her voice steady. The missiles, carrying concentrated stellar material, streaked across space. When they detonated, they created miniature suns, engulfing a Galactic Council fleet in plasma. Lily watched impassively as thousands of alien lives were snuffed out in an instant. Meanwhile, on a distant jumbo world, Captain Miguel Ortiz led a guerrilla force of humans and alien defectors. They sabotaged a council supply line, using phase shift technology to appear and disappear at will. For Earth, Ortiz whispered as he set the charges. The war had changed everyone. Dr. Emma Latimer, once a pacifist, now worked tirelessly in her orbital lab, developing ever more deadly bioweapons. Her latest creation could rewrite the genetic code of entire species. She looked at the vial in her hand, wondering if she had gone too far. In the Galactic Council chambers, High Counselor Zaxthor was no longer in control. A military junta led by General Krovax had taken over, pushing for total war. "We must eradicate the human vermin," Krovax growled, "no matter the cost." But the cost was proving higher than anyone had anticipated. Dozens of alien races, seeing the brutality on both sides, had chosen to ally with humanity. Others had retreated to the fringes of the galaxy, wanting no part in the madness. On Earth, now heavily fortified and unrecognizable from its pre-war state, President Alvarez addressed a weary population. "We did not choose this war," she said, her face lined with the weight of years of conflict. "But we will see it through. For our fallen. For our future." In hidden labs across human-controlled space, scientists worked on projects that pushed the boundaries of physics and ethics. The quantum destabilizer had been just the beginning. Now they spoke in hushed tones of weapons that could erase entire timelines or tear holes in the fabric of reality. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, leading a team on Mars, made a startling discovery: the faster-than-light drives. She explained to a room of stunned officials. "They're not just for travel. They're gateways to other universes." The implications were staggering. The war could spread beyond their own reality. As battles raged across the stars, a new threat emerged. Ancient, dormant species, awakened by the cosmic upheaval, began to stir. On the edges of known space, massive structures of impossible geometry appeared, dwarfing even the largest battleships. Admiral Lilly received the reports with growing concern. "We may have bigger problems than the Council," she murmured, studying the enigmatic readings. In a secret meeting, representatives from Earth and a faction of the Galactic Council met on neutral ground. General Sarah Chen, now aged but still formidable, faced her counterpart, a towering crystalline being named Xarlof. "This war has gone on long enough," Chen said firmly. "We're on the brink of destroying the galaxy itself." Xarlof's facets shimmered in agreement. "Perhaps it is time to find a way to coexist," it chimed, "before it's too late for all of us." As they began to discuss terms, a massive explosion rocked the station. Extremists from both sides, unwilling to accept peace, had joined forces to sabotage the talks. Chen and Xarlof found themselves fighting side by side against the attackers, a symbol of the cooperation that might yet save them all. As the battle raged around them, Chen realized a terrible truth. The war had taken on a life of its own, consuming everything in its path. Stopping it would be harder than starting it ever was. In the vast, uncaring void of space, the fate of not just humanity, but all sentient life hung in the balance. The Galactic War had reached its tipping point. What came next would determine the future of the entire universe. The ancient space station Nexus, once the proud seat of the Galactic Council, now stood as a silent witness to the final act of a war that had nearly torn the universe apart. Representatives from every surviving species gathered in its cavernous main chamber, the air thick with tension and the weight of history. Admiral Lilly, her once youthful face now etched with the scars of countless battles, stood at the center. Beside her was Xarlof, the crystalline being who had become an unlikely ally in the quest for peace. Together, they faced the assembled delegates. "We stand at a crossroads," Lilly began, her voice carrying across the chamber. "We can continue this war until there's nothing left to fight for, or we can choose a different path." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some nodded in agreement, others chittered in dissent. The wounds of the past decade were still fresh for many. Xarlof's crystalline form shimmered as it spoke. "We have all suffered. We have all lost. But we have also seen what we can achieve when we work together." On cue, a holographic display sprang to life in the center of the chamber. It showed the massive alien structures that had appeared at the edge of known space. Dr. Yuki Tanaka's voice, transmitted from her research station on Mars, filled the room. "These structures are gateways," she explained. "They lead to other universes, other realities. The beings who built them, the precursors, left them as a test. Only a united galaxy can hope to unlock their secrets and face what lies beyond." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices. The prospect of new universes to explore, new challenges to face, seemed to awaken something in the war-weary delegates. High Counselor Zax Thor, one of the few surviving members of the old council, stepped forward. "And who would lead this united galaxy?" he asked, his compound eyes fixed on Lily. Lily smiled, a plan long in the making finally coming to fruition. "Not any one species," she said, "but all of us together." She gestured, and another hologram appeared. It showed a new structure, a massive space station that dwarfed even Nexus. "This is the Harmony," Lily explained, "a neutral ground where representatives from all species can live and work together, a symbol of our new beginning." The delegates buzzed with excitement and apprehension. It was a bold proposal, unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. As discussions raged on, in a quiet corner of the chamber, Captain Miguel Ortiz reunited with Dr. Emma Latimer. They watched the proceedings with a mix of hope and wariness. "Do you think it will work?" Ortiz asked, his hand unconsciously touching the scars on his face. Emma sighed, thinking of all the weapons she had created, all the lives lost. "It has too," she said simply. "The alternative is unthinkable." As the hours passed, agreements were made, treaties signed. The new galactic order began to take shape. It wasn't perfect, old grudges died hard, and trust would take time to build. But it was a start. As the meeting drew to a close, Lily found herself standing alone on an observation deck, staring out at the stars. General Sarah Chen, now retired but still a trusted advisor, joined her. "We've come a long way from New Hope," Chen said softly. Lily nodded, memories of her lost home, her lost family, washing over her. "Was it worth it?" she asked, voicing the doubt that had plagued her for years. Chen placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "That's for the future to decide," she said. "Our job now is to make sure they have that future." As they watched, ships from 100 worlds undocked from Nexus, each carrying delegates home to spread the news of the new galactic order. Among them was the Nova Dawn, once a warship, now a symbol of exploration and hope. Lily straightened her uniform and turned away from the viewport. There was much work to be done. The Harmony needed to be built, the precursor gateways studied, 1,000,000 wounds healed. But for the first time in over a decade, there was hope. The galaxy, born anew from the ashes of war, looked to the future with cautious optimism. As Lily walked back to join the others, she allowed herself a small smile. The stars, once battlefields, now beckoned with the promise of new adventures, new discoveries, and a united future for all sentient beings. The massacre that had started it all would never be forgotten, but perhaps at last it could be forgiven.